All right, let's jump into a deep dive today into the world of plants.
Sounds good to me.
When you think about all their different parts, their structure, how they actually work,
Yeah,
leaves, stems, roots,
it's a lot.
it is a lot. Like, it's so much more than we think.
It is.
So let's just jump in and talk about leaves first.
Okay.
I think that's a good place to start because they're pretty amazing.
They are.
They really are. They come in so many different shapes and sizes.
Right, and all those shapes and sizes, all that variety.
Yeah.
There's a common structure. There's a purpose underneath it all.
Right. Like when I look at a leaf and I think about like the veins and
The patterns,
Uh-huh.
the textures.
and how even those vary depending on the type of plant.
Mm-hmm.
It's mind-blowing.
It is, and yet they're all about the same thing. They're capturing sunlight, converting that to energy.
Right. So they're like nature solar panels.
Exactly.
So, okay, so we know they capture sunlight,
Right.
but how do they get the stuff they need for photosynthesis, I mean?
That's the thing, right? That's
Yeah.
where it gets really interesting because the leaf's outer layer, the epidermis,
Uh-huh.
it's kind of like our skin, right?
Right, yeah.
It's protective.
Protective barrier,
It helps prevent water loss, but it also has to be transparent,
so light can get in.
right? To those inner cells where the photosynthesis is happening.
So it's like a balancing act
Yeah, it is.
between protection and transparency.
Absolutely. And then you run into another challenge because if that outer layer, that epidermis, is waterproof, how do things like carbon dioxide and water, the ingredients for photosynthesis,
Yeah, right.
how do they get in?
It's like a locked room mystery.
It is.
Okay.
But there is an answer. These tiny pores on the leaf surface
Okay.
called stomata,
Semilata.
like little microscopic gateways.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, controlling the flow of gases
Okay.
in and out of the leaf.
So are they like randomly placed or is there like a method to this madness?
There is a method. I mean, they're not just like scattered willy-nilly.
Right.
Their placement can vary.
Depends on the plant. Yeah.
Yeah, the environment, but they're often found on the underside of the leaf
Okay.
to reduce water loss. And what's really cool, each of the stomata is surrounded by two specialized cells
Okay.
called guard cells.
Guard cells.
And they act like tiny inflatable doors
Oh, I see.
that open and close the stoma,
Yeah.
regulating that gas exchange.
It's like, so plants have like their own little air traffic control system.
Yeah, exactly. So how do these guard cells actually work?
Yeah. What makes them inflate and deflate?
Water pressure.
Okay.
When the guard cells are full of water, they're turgid,
Turgid. Okay.
which means they swell up, they curve apart,
Uh-huh.
opening the stoma, and when they lose water, they become flaccid
Okay.
and they collapse, closing the stoma.
So it's all just like this tiny hydraulic system
Yeah,
powered by water. Plants are a lot more dynamic than they appear.
they are. And speaking of dynamic, remember those palisade cells we were talking about?
Yeah.
Packed with chloroplasts?
Yeah.
Well, their arrangement is also pretty ingenious.
Okay.
Often elongated, tightly packed together, kind of like a solar panel,
Right.
maximizing their exposure to light.
Right. Making photosynthesis as efficient as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Plants are like masters of efficiency.
They are.
And then we have the veins, right,
Yes.
that run through the leaf,
Right, throughout the whole leaf containing the xylem and the phloem.
which are like the plant's highway system.
Yes, a transportation network
So they're moving water and nutrients
to the cells and
taking away the sugars.
exactly, carrying away the sugars produced during photosynthesis.
So we've got this whole system, right,
We do.
for capturing light, taking in carbon dioxide, water, transporting it.
All within this one little leaf.
Mind-blowing. What about stems?
Stems.
Yeah, what about those sturdy stems?
Yeah, you need them for support.
Yeah, I mean, without them, it'd just be like a floppy mess on the ground.
Right. They hold the plant upright.
Yeah.
Allow it to reach for the sunlight.
Reach for the sky.
But they also are vital for transport, right?
Right.
Carrying that water and nutrients up from the roots.
Right.
And transporting those sugars from the leaves to other parts of the plant.
It's like the backbone.
Right.
Literally and figuratively.
Yes.
Providing support and the central transportation hub.
And they take on so many different forms.
Wait, hold on. Not all stems are created equal.
No.
There's more to it than just a simple stalk.
Yeah, think about, have you ever seen a strawberry plant send out runners?
Yeah.
Those are modified stems
Oh, okay.
called stolons,
Souls.
and they grow horizontally along the ground. They can sprout new plants where they touch down.
So it's like plants cloning themselves.
Exactly. And that's just one example.
Wow.
Think about cacti, right?
Yeah.
Their stems are adapted for water storage.
In those arid environments.
Or grapevines,
Okay.
which use tendrils, also modified stems,
Right.
to climb and support themselves.
So it's like stems have this hidden superpower
They do.
to morph and adapt to the plant's needs.
They do. And then there's a whole world of underground stems.
The ground stem.
Rhizomes, tubers, corms. They're all stems.
So are you saying that things like potatoes
Are actually stems.
are stems?
Yes. Potatoes are tubers, which are thickened underground stems that store carbohydrates.
That's so cool.
And speaking of cool things, did you know you can determine the age of a tree by counting its growth rings?
Oh, yeah, right.
It's like looking back in time.
Yeah, it's incredible. Okay, but what about the inside of a stem? What's going on in there?
Just like leaves, they've got that outer layer, the epidermis.
Okay.
You've got the cortex,
Okay.
involved in storage and support,
Right.
and the pith, which can also store water and nutrients.
So it's like a multi-layered system,
It is.
each with its own important job. But where do those vascular bundles, the xylem and phloem, fit into all of this?
Good question. They're embedded within the stem,
Okay.
running vertically to connect the roots, the stems, the leaves. And here's a cool detail. Their arrangement differs between monocots and dicots.
Wait, monocots and dicots, those ring a bell from like way back.
Yeah.
Monocots are like grasses.
Grasses, right. One cotyledon.
And dicots are pretty much everything else.
The embryonic leaf in the seed, yeah.
Right.
And that difference influences the entire organization of the plant,
So even that tiny little difference
including the arrangement of those vascular bundles in the stem.
has these ripple effects.
Monocots have scattered bundles,
Uh-huh.
while dicots have them arranged in a neat ring.
Wow, it's mind-boggling how everything's interconnected. Okay,
Yeah.
so we've talked about the above-ground stuff.
Right.
But what about those hidden heroes, the roots?
Yeah, the roots. They're essential for plant survival.
Right, they're like the anchors of the plant world.
Yes.
Right, keeping everything in place.
They provide that anchorage,
Yeah.
preventing the plant from toppling over, but they also have this vital role in nutrient and water uptake.
Right, absorbing all the good stuff from the soil.
Yes,
So it's like a two-for-one deal.
it is.
Stability and sustenance.
Yeah.
And we talked about xylem, right?
Right.
Transporting water from the roots.
Up to the plant.
But how do the roots actually absorb all that water and nutrients?
Surface area.
Okay.
The more surface area a root has,
Mhm.
the more water and nutrients it can absorb.
I see.
And that's where root hairs come in.
Root hairs. Okay, those are vaguely familiar. Remind me.
These tiny hair-like extensions that grow out from the root's epidermis,
Okay.
massively increasing the surface area for absorption.
So each root's covered in thousands of these tiny little straws,
Yeah,
sucking up water and nutrients.
that's a great way to think about it.
Okay.
And it's not just a random free-for-all. The root has this special layer of cells called the endodermis.
Okay.
Acts like a gatekeeper.
So it's like a security checkpoint.
Exactly.
Only the good stuff gets in.
The endodermis is essential for selective permeability,
I see.
making sure that harmful substances are filtered out
Okay.
while essential nutrients are allowed in.
Plants are so much more complex than I ever realized.
They are.
They have these intricate systems for transport, absorption, protection, and it all works together.
Seamlessly.
Wow.
Uh,
Oh, my brain is officially full.
I bet.
I think that's a good place to pause, though.
Okay.
We've gone from leaves to stems to roots.
A lot of ground covered.
And it's amazing to me how each part has its own structure and function.
It is.
But they all work together so well.
They do. It's remarkable.
It's true.
Testament to the power of evolution,
It is.
the interconnectedness of life.
It is. All right, well, let's take a break,
Okay.
and we'll come back and talk about some more of this.
Sounds good.
Because there's so much more to talk about.
There is. Yeah. It really is remarkable how they've all evolved to play their parts.
Right.
But you know what's even more fascinating is how all of these structures are influenced by the environment.
Oh, totally. I mean, think about how plants can survive in such crazy places now.
yeah.
From like deserts to rainforests.
It's incredible.
It's mind-blowing.
It is. And remember those palisade cells, the ones packed with chloroplasts for photosynthesis.
Yeah.
Well, their arrangement can actually vary depending on how much light the plant's getting.
So like a plant growing in the shade would have a different palisade cell arrangement than one growing in full sun.
Exactly. Plants in low light conditions, they often have more loosely packed palisade cells.
To maximize that light absorption.
Exactly. And plants in sunny spots, they might have more tightly packed cells to protect against too much light.
So it's like they can adjust their internal structure to optimize their performance.
They can, based on their environment.
Wow, it's like they have their own internal light meter. What about roots? Are they influenced by the environment too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The type of root system that develops can be influenced by things like soil moisture,
Okay.
nutrient availability. So, for instance, in dry environments, plants often develop deep taproots.
To reach those water sources.
Deep underground.
Yeah.
While in areas with, say, more consistent rainfall, they might develop a shallower, more extensive network of those fibrous roots.
Right, so they can efficiently absorb nutrients from the topsoil.
Exactly.
So it's like they're constantly responding and like tweaking their growth
They are.
based on their situation.
Yeah, it's a real interplay between their genetics and the environment.
Wow.
This kind of dance between nature and nurture. Speaking of dynamic, though, let's talk about transport.
Okay.
How do all those things move around?
Right, so we've got water, nutrients, sugars.
How do they get where they need to go?
Yeah, how do they actually move throughout the plant?
Well, this is where the xylem and phloem really come in.
Right, that plant highway system.
Our plant highway, how does it work?
Yeah.
So xylem,
Uh-huh.
responsible for transporting water and dissolved minerals,
Okay.
upwards from the roots to the rest of the plant.
So it's like a one-way pipeline.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Powered by a couple of forces, including something called transpiration pull.
Transpiration pull. Okay, that sounds a little intense.
It's actually pretty cool.
Okay.
As water evaporates from the leaves through those stomata,
Uh-huh.
it creates this negative pressure that pulls water molecules up through the xylem.
So it's almost like sucking on a straw.
It is kind of like sucking on a straw.
So the water molecules are literally pulling each other upwards
They are.
from the roots to the leaves.
All the way up.
Wow, that's so efficient.
It is.
Just powered by the sun's energy and the plant's own design.
Exactly.
Okay, what about phloem? I know that's for transporting sugars.
That's right. It carries the sugars produced during photosynthesis
Okay.
from the leaves, often called the source.
To other parts of the plant.
Which are called the sinks.
Roots, fruits, growing buds, you name it.
So it's like a delivery system.
It is, making sure all parts of the plant get the energy they need.
Okay. But how do the sugars move through the phloem? Is it a similar thing to the xylem transpiration pull?
Not quite. Sugar transport in the phloem is driven by a different mechanism called the pressure flow hypothesis.
Okay.
Essentially, sugars are actively loaded into the phloem at the source,
Okay.
creating this high concentration that draws water in from the xylem, increases the pressure, and that pushes this sugary sap along the phloem to the sinks.
So it's a pressure-driven system with sugars flowing from high concentration to low concentration.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay, so two different systems.
Two different systems for two different purposes.
But both equally fascinating.
Exactly. It's fascinating how they've evolved these mechanisms for transport.
Making sure everything gets where it needs to go.
Right, it's a testament to the efficiency, the complexity of plant life.
It is.
And it just reminds us that even though plants seem kind of static,
Yeah.
they're actually incredibly dynamic and responsive.
Right. Constantly interacting with their environment.
All the time. And speaking of those hidden worlds, remember the roots.
Oh, yeah. The roots.
Yeah.
Easy to forget about them
Easy to forget about them.
because they're underground.
But they're so crucial.
Yeah.
Did you know, for instance, that the very tip of the root is protected by a tough layer of cells called the root cap?
Right. The root cap. It's like a little helmet
Like a little helmet
shielding the delicate growing tip.
as it pushes through the soil.
Yeah.
And just behind that root cap, you have the zone of cell division,
Okay.
where rapid cell division is happening, adding new cells to that growing root.
Right. And then there's that zone of elongation where those new cells stretch out
Exactly, lengthening the root, allowing it to explore deeper.
deeper into the soil. It's amazing.
It is.
Like a perfectly choreographed dance of growth.
And then as the root matures, you get that zone of differentiation where cells specialize into different types,
Okay.
forming tissues like the xylem, the phloem, the endodermis.
It's incredible how this is all happening beneath the surface.
Isn't it?
A whole symphony of growth.
We rarely get to see it. And speaking of unseen wonders, the source material highlights this fascinating symbiotic relationship between plants and fungi
Okay.
called mycorrhizae.
Mycorrhizae. Okay, that rings a bell.
Yeah.
Remind me.
So these are incredible partnerships
Okay.
where fungal filaments called hyphae grow into and around plant roots.
So it's like a team effort.
It is forming this intricate network.
Okay, but what's in it for both of them?
Well, it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
Okay, so it's a win-win.
Win-win.
Yep.
The fungi extend the plant's root system,
Okay.
increasing its surface area for absorption,
Water and nutrients.
especially phosphorus.
Okay.
In return, the plant provides the fungi with sugars produced during photosynthesis.
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins. It's amazing how interconnected the natural world is.
It really is in these hidden partnerships. They're playing these really important roles in these ecosystems.
It are. And it's estimated that over 80% of plant species form these mycorrhizal associations.
Wow.
Yeah.
So much going on beneath the surface.
All the time.
A whole world we don't even realize is there.
A whole nother world. Speaking of interactions, let's shift gears and talk about how plants respond to environmental stimuli.
Okay.
Right? They don't have eyes or ears,
Right.
but they are incredibly sensitive to their surroundings.
Right. It's like they have the sixth sense.
They do.
Allows them to perceive the world around them.
Yeah.
Like how sunflowers track the sun across the sky.
That's a classic example.
Or how mimosa leaves fold up when you touch them.
Those are examples of plant tropisms.
Tropisms, okay.
Growth responses to environmental stimuli. So sunflowers,
Yeah.
heliotropism,
Oh.
their stems bend towards sunlight,
Okay.
and mimosa leaves, thigmotropism,
Okay.
response to touch.
So they're constantly sensing their environment and adjusting their growth.
They are, all the time.
It's not just passive.
No, they're actively responding.
To what's happening.
And these responses can be really sophisticated.
Right, they can, involving complex signaling pathways
Yeah.
and hormonal changes. The source material mentions hormones like auxin involved in cell elongation
Right.
and plays a key role in phototropism, which is the growth towards light.
Auxin is fascinating.
It is.
It's produced in the shoot tip,
Uh-huh.
transported downwards, causing the cells on the shaded side of the stem to elongate,
Okay.
bending the stem towards that light source.
So it's like they're using this hormone to direct their growth,
They are.
making sure the leaves get that exposure to the sunlight.
Exactly, to maximize photosynthesis. And they also respond to other environmental cues like gravity.
Right.
So roots exhibit positive gravitropism
Growing downwards.
into the soil, while shoots display negative gravitropism, growing upwards toward the light.
So it's like they have this built-in compass guiding their growth.
They do.
But how do they sense gravity? Do they have like little gravity detectors?
That is a great question.
Yeah.
And the exact mechanism is still being researched.
Okay.
But one hypothesis is that specialized cells called statocytes
Statocytes.
contain dense starch grains called spatoliths
Stateless.
that settle to the bottom of the cell, indicating the direction of gravity.
So like a built-in level.
Exactly, helping them orient themselves in space.
It's amazing they've evolved these mechanisms to respond to such fundamental forces.
They have. And, these responses are not only fascinating scientifically, but they're crucial for the plant's survival.
Right. It's all about optimizing their growth.
Exactly.
Getting those resources.
Avoiding threats.
Staying alive.
Survival of the fittest, even in the plant world.
Totally. Okay. I think my brain is officially full.
I think mine is too.
We've covered a lot of ground today. We have from leaf anatomy to root symbiosis to plant tropisms.
It's incredible how much complexity there is in the plant world.
Yeah, it really is. And all this activity happening right beneath our noses.
All the time.
I know. It really makes you appreciate it.
Yeah, it does. It's a testament to the power of evolution and the incredible diversity of life on Earth.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that even though plants seem silent and unmoving, they're actually incredibly dynamic
Constantly responding to their environment.
in ways we're only just beginning to understand.
Yeah, I think you've officially converted me to a plant enthusiast.
Excellent.
But I think we need to take a break here.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let all of this amazing information sink in.
Sounds good.
All right, I'm back. I think my brain has decompressed a little bit
Good.
after all that plant info. But it's amazing when you think about how much we actually rely on plants.
We do for everything.
Not just for the food we eat and the oxygen we breathe,
Right.
but for so much more.
So many other aspects of our lives.
They really are the foundation of so many industries.
They are. Think about it.
Yeah.
Agriculture, textiles, medicine.
Construction even.
Construction, yeah.
I mean, they provide us with everything.
They do. Food, clothing, shelter.
Even the air we breathe.
The air we breathe, it's true. And as we learn more about them,
Yeah.
we're discovering even more ways that they can benefit us.
Right. Like our sources mentioned some pretty exciting stuff about plant-based biofuels
Oh, yeah.
as a potential renewable energy source.
Yeah, that's a really hot area of research right now.
It is.
And certain plant species, like switchgrass and algae, they can be grown and processed to produce these biofuels,
Wow.
which could really help us reduce our dependence on fossil fuel.
Right, and move us towards a more sustainable future.
Exactly.
That's incredible. I mean, we can literally power our cars and homes with plants.
We can. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And the sources also talked about something called phytoremediation.
Phytoremediation. Okay, what's that?
So this is a really fascinating field that's exploring the use of plants to clean up polluted environments.
Okay.
Some plant species have this incredible ability to absorb and break down pollutants,
Like what kind of pollutants?
like heavy metals, pesticides.
Wow.
So they can actually remove them from the soil or water.
So they're like little environmental superheroes.
Yeah.
Cleaning up our messes.
Cleaning up our messes and restoring balance to damaged ecosystems.
That's amazing. And of course, we can't forget about the role they play in mitigating climate change.
Oh, absolutely. They are incredible carbon sinks, absorbing all that carbon dioxide from the atmosphere during photosynthesis.
Exactly. So by protecting our forests,
Yes.
planting new trees,
Yes.
we can really harness that power of plants
Absolutely.
to help us combat climate change.
It's essential.
It really is. So after this deep dive into the world of plants,
Yeah.
what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think the biggest one is that plants are not just passive bystanders.
Yeah.
They're dynamic. They're responsive.
alive.
They're alive. That's a good one. They are.
Right.
They're constantly interacting with their environment in these really fascinating ways.
Right. And they have these incredibly intricate systems
They do.
that allow them to thrive
For growth, for transport.
in all sorts of crazy places.
Yeah, for responding to all those different stimuli.
It's like they're little chemical factories, master engineers, and expert communicators all in one.
I love that analogy. That's great. And I'd also emphasize the interconnectedness of plant life.
Right. They're not just these isolated things.
No, they're forming these complex relationships with other organisms.
Right. Like we talked about, like fungi and the mycorrhizae
Yeah.
or pollinators.
Pollinators. Yeah, essential for reproduction.
It's this beautiful dance.
It is a dance of interdependence.
And a powerful reminder, I think,
Yes.
that ecosystems are these intricate webs where each species is playing this vital role in maintaining balance.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And finally, I think it's important for listeners to appreciate the importance of plant science,
Oh, absolutely.
for human well-being.
Yeah.
Understanding how plants work at this fundamental level can really help us develop more sustainable agricultural practices,
Right.
discover new medicines,
New medicines.
even engineer plants
Yeah.
to help clean up our planet.
Exactly.
I mean, the possibilities really are endless.
They are. It's amazing to think about all the potential there is in the plant world.
It is.
Yeah.
Not just for scientific discovery, but for addressing some of the biggest challenges we're facing.
Absolutely. We've only just begun to tap into their wisdom and their power.
Yeah, well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on.
It is.
Thanks for taking us on this deep dive into the world of plants. I feel like I've learned so much.
My pleasure. I'm always happy to talk about plants.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring, whether it's gardening, nature walks, or just taking a moment to appreciate the plants around you.
That's right. There's a whole universe of wonder waiting to be discovered right in your own backyard.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.